Hello there Bake Off fans, it's Jack here at bakewithjack.co.uk. Once again, cutting it fine with this week's Great British Bake Off video diary. It was episode number 6, week 6, pastry week, and here's what I made of it. So pastry is another one of my secret loves. Yeah, I love making bread, we all know that, and bread is all about gluten. It's all about working that gluten and developing it really nicely so the bread can get nice and big and aerated and it's nice and chewy result. However, pastry is the complete opposite end of the scale, right? Every single thing that you do is done deliberately so we do not work that gluten. We're rubbing in all the butter, we're cutting in all the moisture, we're letting it rest up in the fridge for ages, we roll it carefully, delicately, evenly, giving it a turn in between, make sure it's completely even, and we're not working that gluten and we're not stretching it out so we don't get any shrinkage and we don't get any toughness when we eat it. It's got to snap and break and be crumbly and short. And that's the whole point of the pastry. That's the challenge. Round number 1 was 4 individual pies and they all had to be decorated in a particular theme, which I thought was lovely. So Liam obviously went for the football pies, proper football pies, football clubs. I don't know, that went over my head a little bit. It's not my area of expertise, but it had to be a linked theme and that was the point. Stacey went for the pies of love, which I thought was rather cheesy at first, but then afterwards when they came out of the oven they're actually really quite stunning and really nice. Oh, couple of interesting tactics to mention. Baking powder. Julia popped some baking powder into her pastry, which I have seen done before. Gives it a little bit of puff, but when it came to the judging they weren't too keen. They said it was a little bit cakey. Another thing that was very clever from Sophie from Surrey, there's always a time restraint with these things, we know. There's always a lot of stress. You've got to get it done quickly and that's all part of the game sometimes, yeah? So Sophie had an interesting thing. She blind baked her pastry cases in the first place, which you wouldn't normally necessarily do with a pie, but she did that and that ensured that it was perfectly baked when it went to the judges. Pastry decorating is tricky, right? But there's a few rules that you follow, and it's like I said earlier, you don't want to stretch stuff out. You want to roll stuff really nicely and gently, evenly, cut stuff nicely, and it's all about finesse. A few people had finesse. Sophie from Surrey certainly had finesse with those perfect plaits. And also, Stephen shows a lot of finesse in everything that he does. However, his filling was a bit of a letdown. And that seemed to have been a trend for a couple of weeks, that he makes something that looks really nice and it's quite technical and he's put a lot of work into practicing that. But the flavour at the end of the day, or the texture, whatever it is inside of the filling, inside of it is a little bit of a letdown. Yan, I feel like Yan is the opposite. Yan's like lacking a bit of finesse, but she's got this mathematical brain thing going on, this scientific pie making equation, but it couldn't save her this week for the first round. And no handshakes this week as we move on to round number 2, the technical. Now, the technical rough puff pastry, creating my favouriteest thing in the world, the sweetest, most delicious, delicate, crunchy on the outside, smooth and delicious on the inside, Portuguese custard tart called the Pastry de Nata. I've got that written down, that's probably wrong. But these are the most delicious, beautiful, smooth and silky custard pies that you will ever taste. And if you haven't had one, go and get one. But don't go down to M&S or wherever. Go on a plane, go to Portugal and eat one, because they are absolutely wonderful. For the 3rd week in a row, somebody popped on that plane and went down to the little place where they were pushing them out with their thumbs, this puff pastry, rolling it up into a sausage, slice it, pop it in the thing, pushing it out with your thumbs. And that's what it's about. I spoke earlier about rolling stuff out nice and delicately. Boom, push out with your thumbs, and that's where it all happens. As always, some people didn't know what it was, hadn't seen it before. Some people had seen it before and knew exactly what they were going for. And this was a really interesting one. So last place, here come the spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers, it's a week later. Have a word with yourself. You should have watched it a week ago. Here come the spoilers. Last place was Julia. The lovely Julia came last place, and that's a real shame. In 3rd place, Stephen. In 2nd place, Sophie from Surrey. And in 1st place came Jan. Redemption from the first round where she fluffed up those pies a little bit. They were a little bit ropey. Come on, you got to give me that. So round number 3, the show-stopping round on Pastry Week. We all knew what was coming here. Come on. The epic, the majestic, hand-raised hot water crust pie with a glazed fruit top, and it had to be a big one. In this round there was a little bit of controversy whether you should mould it on the outside of the mould or mould it on the inside of the mould, and we're all on the edge of our seats for a little bit there, but at the end of the day it did not really matter, did it? Liam switched his up to do it on the outside because it's tradition, and Paul gave him the funny look, and he did it on the outside anyway. Everything come out nice, not an issue. Who am I? Ready? Who am I? Yeah, we all saw that moment where Stacey suddenly discovered there was a big piece of paper in the bottom of her pie that she already filled. That was wicked. I bet people had cut that up and spread it all over Twitter like wildfire. You would do, wouldn't you? That was a pretty wicked moment. Wow, there was a lot of stunners here and a little bit of heartbreak too. I feel like when we get this far into the competition, we're all beginning to like people and connect with them and feel like we personally know them. And if we saw them in the street, we'd go, hey, Kate the blacksmith, how are you? And they'd know who we are, but that probably is not going to be the case, but that's the way that we all feel at this point in the competition, am I right? So celebratory comments followed by heartbreak. There was a lot of stunners, and Stacey, despite embedding that paper into the bottom of the pie, which was a nice tactic, come up with a stunner as well. Liam, one word, spectacular, I've got it written down. Sophie made a stunner. Jan made a stunner, redeeming herself for the second round of redemption, because the second one was redemption, and now the third one is even more, is redeemed. Kate the blacksmith made a stunner as well. It had curry in it, it had mango in it, and Paul Hollywood was all over that. Stevens was very impressive looking as well. He rolled it over the bottom of the mould, and I thought that was quite a nice tactic. I hadn't seen that before, and when I saw it I was like, oh, that's clever. He made a really nice pie, but once again the filling was a letdown. It's style over substance, and that's a real shame. So at the end of this video, at the end of the episode, at the end of Pastry Week, I'm going to ruin it for you if you haven't seen it already. We had to say goodbye to the lovely Julia. Bye-bye, Julia. It's been wicked watching you. It's always a little bit heartbreaking. This stage of the competition, it's heartbreak to see people go. So bye-bye, Julia. You will go down in history for that epic bread snail that you made that looked slightly dodgy. And maybe in a few years' time, it will no longer be Paul Jagger's majestic, crispy bread line on the credits. It will be the rather dodgy-looking bread snail that made us all chuckle a couple of weeks ago. Starbaker's a big moment this week. We've seen it coming. It's been brewing for a couple of weeks, that little tiny seed that got planted in the fertile soils of the Great British Bake Off has been watered ever since week number 1, and it's beginning to grow and flourish. And the person who got the Starbaker this week was Liam. Congratulations, Liam. I've been rooting for you for a couple of weeks, mate, and if I could give you a big massive high five, I would do, but this is the digital world, it's not real life, and as much time as we spend hanging out here together, it ain't real, it's digital, it's virtual reality. So high five goes out to Liam. Mate, you well deserved it. It was awesome this week. I was rooting for you last week as well, and just took one more week to get it out. Nice one, congratulations to Starbaker, Liam. This week, tonight's episode is Italian week, and I think that's the first. So I'm looking at a tiramisu, essentially, is what I'm looking for. And those little rolled up things with the custard in the middle, you know what they're called? I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, I'm looking forward to that one tonight. Thank you so much for joining me every week. It's been awesome to have you here. My name is Jack, and if you're new here, I'm Jack from bakewithjack.co.uk, where we talk all things bread. And I just popped on a recipe the other day, actually, for that cottage loaf I've been making at shows recently. So go and have a look at that and have a crack at that if you want to. It's on my blog. And that's it. I will see you next week. I'm looking forward to it. Italian week. See you soon. I also want to mention in this one, what's that button do? Why is that button there? I don't know what that does. Anybody know what that button does?